Hello everybody, we hope you are feeling fabulous this evening. The sun is shining. Actually, this has been one of the cloudier days and the sun is still shining and beautiful. I've sat here, I put a t-shirt on rather than one of my Hawaiian shirts, and actually regretting it because it's slightly thicker material. But bear in mind, this used to be baggy on me, so I don't know, it's not a good thing. But there we go, that's what happens when you're approaching 40. When am I 40?
In less than 2 months.
Next month. So, what was I going to say? I know what I was going to do. I was going to talk about something very random for a moment while we waited. Right. So, I think today, hi Hannah, I think today is National Flying Ant Day. You know, the day that comes every year. I think they were talking about it on the radio with Wimbledon as well today. Now, not only have we got flying ants, ours are coming out of our fireplace into our lounge.
Coming down the chimney.
Yeah, so it's not very cool in our lounge at the moment. It's full of flying ants, and the kids are there, and there's me trying to spray them to kill them all and get rid of them all.
Well, every 8-month-old baby used to be gassed by ant spray.
Yes. So note to self. Well, there is no note to self. We don't quite know what to do about it. Most years we get some kind of ant thing somewhere, don't we? But usually it's in the kitchen or in one of the doorways.
We live in the country.
But we don't. Well, people say we live in the country. I never think we do.
We've got fields behind us.
I know we've got fields behind us, but then we've got a massive shopping retail estate the other side of those fields. So we live near Hedge End, for those who know Hedge End. And so yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, we have a field, so therefore we must live in the countryside. What was I say? Ants. Yeah. Where do they come from at the fireplace? I don't know if they are coming down the chimney because they're coming out two of the cracks, aren't they? Very bizarre. Very bizarre. What?
We've had lots of tents today.
We've had lots of tents.
We've put lots of tents up today.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? We had some tents this morning and some tents this afternoon. It was hot.
A bit hot.
So.
We had a wedding in Warwickshire at the weekend, which was one of our very dear photographer friends that we worked with in the industry. We've been working with since the very, very, very beginning of Baylily Bell Tents. The lovely Becky Young Photography. If you're looking for a photographer, not that we endorse everybody, but you know.
Well, the thing is, we like quite a few photographers, but Becky, she's one of the ones we really like. The problem is, we
wanted her for our wedding, and she was too booked out. How dare she?
No, we didn't know her for our wedding. Yes, we did.
I found her at my dress fitting.
I didn't know her at our wedding.
And then she did our kids' bit. Anyway, we were in Warwickshire, and the sun was shining down. They had an amazing. We're actually hopefully going to be blogging their wedding. It was an agricultural barn. You know, like the three-sided kind of.
Are you telling me this barn is more interesting than my flying ant story?
Yes, it's relevant to the group. It was a three-sided agricultural hay barn, really high ceilinged, and it was, as Becky and Mark, obviously they work in weddings and they go to about 50 weddings a year, they were very keen to have, not an anti-wedding, but they were very keen to have a very low-key, not your average wedding because they go to so many. So they had a very low-key ceremony. They had a bit of a...
Well, the reception barn was definitely well set up for
but things they'd done, it was on they had a family farm, and they'd taken elements from the farm to decorate their area. So they had wildflowers that they picked from the farm. They had hay bales that had been made on the farm, and then around the edge, it was stunning. And I will put a photo in when we get the ones through for the blog. They'd chalked, like regular chalked a meadow of flowers around the edge of the barn, because obviously it was a bit industrial. So they made a chalk meadow all the way around the edge of the three sides, which is really pretty. And they had a big chalked bar sign, and they had parts of like trees hanging down from the roof. It was really naturalistic, but I really liked it.
I did like the bits of trees, and what they had some like little origami birds hanging from the trees. It did look really, really nice.
However, the ground conditions were hard, to say the least, weren't they?
Yeah, but let's talk more about the barn and everything. No one cares about the mud. No one cares about mud.
The sun is so hot right now. Alan has to use a crowbar to get the tent pegs out of the tent.
That is true.
And literally, rather than taking the peg out, took clumps of earth out, because the ground in this lovely, glorious weather, which we would love to stay forever, took out half of the blinking field.
That is true, but I have to go back to the Becky and Mark's wedding quickly. I really, really, really liked the kind of branches hung up with the origami
beautiful.
birds, and I know a lot of you guys are into that kind of, not into that. That sounds terrible. Like want to use what's around you as part of your wedding, from people scavenging for bottles and all sorts. But I really like the branches, and the leaves were just going crispy and brown on the branches as the branch was dying. So definitely have a look around your venue to what you can scavenge and use.
It was really well done. It was very
really
understated. But
she is artistic, though. I mean, I'm if I did that, it would just look shit. But she's very artistic. If I hung a dead branch off the back of the house here, someone would go, "Why have you got a dead branch hanging off the house?" No one would go, "Wow, that looks really cool." They'd all say, "Why?" Because I don't know what it is. It's like when I was at school. I was the one who drew it, and it looked crap. Like art is. Yeah, I know. Sorry, we try not to spend on. When art is fully up for an interpretation, but ultimately it can still be rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine will always be rubbish. Right, I've got a couple of other things to talk about other than flying ants and the wedding at the weekend. We slowly snuck past, or quietly snuck past 5,000 on Instagram for the Outside Bride. We decided not to make a hoo-ha out of it because we made a hoo-ha out of 4,000. So we just thought, yay, and thank you to all of you as always. New blog went out on Tuesday about bikes. So we've got the Tour de France coming up, and the lovely Hannah, who works for us in the Outside Bride team, she has compiled a blog about how to use bikes. How to use bikes at your wedding?
Incorporating some, we're going to do a couple. There's some very large-scale sporting events this year, as well as the World Cup. Did anyone see the World Cup? We don't watch the World Cup, really.
We had it on.
We're not footballers. We watched it last night.
I tell you, Mrs. I don't care. You were Facebooking about it.
Old Alan here, penalty shootout, had to break out into some press-ups.
I was really nervous.
Because he couldn't deal with the pressure, so he was breaking out into press-ups on the floor, going... It was quite amusing. I did video it, but he banned me from putting it on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Tour de France coming up, and there's Wimbledon coming up, or on at the moment, so things like desserts you could put on for during Wimbledon, eat a mess maybe.
Or something easy like strawberries and cream. Sorry, where I've been sweating, my hair's coming over. Apologies, everyone.
But the blog post is really cool. It's things like having an entourage of bikes down from your ceremony to your reception. It's incorporating into your decor. It's
having like an ice cream bike or a gin bike. I think Hannah found.
Things you can do to incorporate little British touches and things of things we were doing. Oh, the Tour de France. I appreciate French, but those little things.
Well, there's the Tour de Yorkshire as well. So
have a look. It's really cool. It's a nice little idea.
There actually is,
by
the way, the Tour de Yorkshire. You looked at me like I was lying. There's fact. There's the Tour de Yorkshire. What?
Right. Anyway,
there is the Tour de Yorkshire.
Anything else to talk about?
Yes. What was I going to say? It was one last relevant point about all the blogs and everything. No, two things. If you want to read the blog, go onto the website. Well, the post is in here as well. I always share them in here. But go onto the outsidebride.co.uk and it's on latest posts. The other thing is we've got a new website coming so soon. It's unbelievable. Within the next 9 or 10 days, the new website will be live. Unless, basically, it's built. So unless something major goes wrong,
the internet breaks forever.
Yeah, or our web guy Will loses it before he installs it or whatever. Basically, it will be live within the next.
We can smell it now.
We can smell it. It's very exciting.
So close.
And we've got some fab suppliers who are coming online to be on in the directory with the fab ones who are already there. So they will be there ready.
We might run a little competition next week, maybe as we launch. Watch this space. We might do a little bridal competition.
Yes.
Yes, we will.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So yes. Right, come on. We've got 3 questions. We've stolen them from the group. So if you posted a question in the past sort of day or so, we're going to talk about that tonight. However, as always, if you have anything you'd like us to discuss, then just type it in, press go, and we can talk about it. So let's start down the list. Sam, who does like to ask the odd question. She says she can't watch live tonight. No prob, Sam. She says, how much stuff is too much on tables for a wedding breakfast? Can there ever be too little, e.g. plates, glasses, etc.? Now, before I hand over to Emily to answer that, because Emily will, if you want to go back through all the previous Asking Experts to number 13, we did a full table layout demo experience. So you can either go and find that on our YouTube channel or in the videos on this group. Emily, would you like to answer Sam's question, please?
As Alan said, we did it a few weeks back. We did a real-time kind of setup. I did a very basic setup of a table, a trestle table, of what you could expect on a wedding table. And it's good to refresh because, you know, we're getting new people into the group all the time and you might not have seen things. So I would always stress that little goes a long way. Depends on what you're having. If you're having round tables or you're having trestle tables or you're having picnic style on the floor, all that kind of stuff, consider everything that you would necessarily have to have. So a couple of things to consider are the style of dining you're having. Are you having buffet? Are you having a 3-course sit-down meal? Are you having it family style, where it's help yourself in front of the table, that kind of stuff, where you're sharing platters and that kind of stuff? That will determine what's starting on your table as a bare minimum. Are you going to have plates already on your table? Are you having charger plates on your table or place settings? Are you having extra crockery on your tables? Are you going to have full silverware on your tables? Are you going to have a wine glass? Are you going to have a water glass? Are you going to have champagne for toasts on your table? Once you start thinking about all those things that you have to have on your table for whatever your catering style is going to be, so I've got like hands everywhere. Whatever your dining style is going to be, then you can work out the rest of your stuff.
There's no ends.
I've sat on one. One's gone out my neck.
Oh, right.
So your table centres, don't have to go with flowers. You could go with anything you like. I've said this.
Corn, pineapples. When's someone going to do a pineapple table centre? Keep going.
It's been done. Think about that. And are you going to have favours on your table? Are you going to have name places on your tables? Are you going to have table numbers or names? All that kind of stuff. You can start to get quite silly with the amount of stuff you put on your tables. When you ask the question, Sam, can you put too little? I don't think so, because by the time you've got someone sat down on that table, you've got a table centre in, and you've got their bags or their phones or everything, it does become quite
I'm a big believer. I think less is more.
I think if you are going to have a very minimal table and you're not having any of that gumph on your table to start off with, think about other things that you could do that could make the tables pop without having to put stuff on it. I use pop.
Such a chump.
Think about
She's
things
such
that
a chump.
you might not want to use.
Why don't you ping me an email while you're there?
You might not want to use white table linen. You might want to use coloured table linen. You might want to use runners.
Were you going to say purple?
No.
Oh, right. Here we go.
I would never say purple unless you have purple, and that's a lovely choice if you like it.
Well, yeah, of course it is.
It is the Pantone colour of the year, so who knows? But you might want to use table runners. Anything that can break up just the white of a plain white tablecloth would do you good, I think. Happy to do. We're going to start doing some more DIY kind of stuff as we go through with the new blog as well. So I'm happy to do some table settings. I said we did the live one a few weeks ago. I'm happy to do some mock-ups of some photos of the different types of shapes and styles and things you might do in the future. But I hope that you get a bit of an idea about that, Sam, and it answers some of your questions.
Thank you, Sam, and hello, Belinda. I hope you're all right as well. We're fab, thank you. Actually, she didn't ask how we were, but I said we're fab, thank you anyway. Right, Sarah put, I think it was yesterday or this morning, I can't quite remember. Basically, she's got a couple of outdoor parties and a wedding coming up. Forecast for some of them is bad, so wet weather.
No, they've had their wedding. They've got 2 30th birthdays coming up.
Oh, I didn't think she had her wedding, actually.
If I've misread that, I apologise.
Well, anyway, regardless of whether it's wedding or birthdays, it's the same, but different. Wet weather, indoor, and, well, I don't see why not outdoor as well, but wet weather activities. First of all, we thought it's probably worth mentioning your layout here.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah. Now, regardless of whether you've got a marquee or a teepee, Emily said I talk about marquees too much, but in my head, the principle's the same. So marquee, teepee, or semi-geodesic dome, or you're in a barn, it doesn't really matter, right? So as if you're in a structure, think about your layout for wet weather. So if you have an entrance, you should have an entrance, whether it's doors or whether it's a zipped up side or whether it's the big doors on a teepee. The next space, you do not want to be the tables and chairs. No. You want it, ideally, if you can get big enough, to be a communal space. It can be the dance floor, because actually the dance floor is not being used to the evening, or it could be, you know, a bar area or something. But what you want is, if it's raining, there is space inside for people to stand and mingle without them going to their tables and chairs.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and if you want to stop them going to their tables and chairs, you can use reveal curtains, posts and ropes, security guards, you know.
Anything you need to put. Basically, you spend a lot of time in the lead up to your wedding, a lot of time in the lead up to your wedding making your tables look beautiful. And the last thing you want to do, just because the clouds have decided to let some wet stuff out, is to make people have to come in really quickly to then sit at their table, which you're not ready for them to be at. Most timelines of a day, I think that's for a thumbs up. Most timelines of the day won't mean you're coming from your ceremony straight away to sit down for your sit down meal. There'll be that photo time or drinks reception or a cocktail hour, all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to have people at their tables unless you want them to be.
See, I don't. I'm one of those people where when you're doing welcome drinks, if you look over and Aunt Mabel has gone and made herself comfortable at her chair, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. No one has said sit down yet. I'm a bit of a traditionalist like that.
Only because you may have things planned out for that afternoon that are specific to you. I don't know, you might have singing waiters, you might have an activity, you might have music playing. You want that to go as you want it, and you can't let the rain dictate how your day actually goes. So you want your timeline to be as it was, just indoors rather than outside on the nice lawn.
Yes.
Most things you do outside should be transferred. It depends on what you're going. Things like
garden games.
Garden games stuff could come inside.
Giant Jenga, giant Connect 4.
Decor can come inside.
A photo booth, that would be inside. I did have an idea, didn't I?
If you had bouncy castle, that's probably not going to happen on the day. If you've got kids or adults who are going to be having that kind of thing, manning it, they're not going to want to sit outside manning it, and you wouldn't want to sit blown up in the rain.
And everyone's going to get wet. It's not cool unless they're drunk.
Know that you might have stuff that, unfortunately, the money's gone. You've hired it already, but you're not going to be using it, unfortunately. But you might have entertainers coming in. You might have a harpist. You might have a magician.
Yeah.
You might have a magician. You might have street artists. You might have a caricature person coming around. They can do everything from outside, inside. It's just making sure that you still regain control of the inside space, doing what you want it to do. Adam had a couple of ideas for activities.
It doesn't naturally fit, but I kind of like the idea of it. Like, if it was absolutely hammering it down and everyone was standing there like, oh, it's raining, Great British Summer, then you could do like a pub quiz or some kind of team group activity. Something like that, and whether that's before they sit down or actually during they sit down, or something's happened in the evening that you need to do the pub quiz rather than the DJ because he's stuck in the mud somewhere. But some kind of quiz. There's always an usher like me who likes the sound of their own voice a little bit too much, who could just whip up a quick pub quiz.
That's a really good one, actually. Making sure you utilise the people in your wedding.
Delegation's what you need.
Yeah, you do need to delegate, but if you've got a master of ceremonies coming, that's fantastic. They are used to that, and they are quick on their feet with things like that, and they've got the gift of the gab. If you've got a best man who likes the sound of his own voice, or an usher who likes the sound of his own voice, or a bridesmaid who is quite quick on her feet for thinking of games, use them and use their abilities to kind of transfer that to what you're doing. On our wedding day, it was actually in the speeches. There was a little bit of a game that went through, and it was lovely when everyone sat down. Alan's got a running joke with his friends that he's a medium, as in size medium. He's not been a medium for probably
but I wear mediums, so therefore I'm a medium.
He's probably been a medium like 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah, maybe.
I reckon I'm slimmer.
But still always wears medium. So the best man did it as part of the speech. Gave half the table, or gave all the tables around the room, not a medium card, and they did.
Yeah, but my best man also got a life-size pull-up poster of me in my thong on a podium in the swimming pool in Las Vegas.
But we're talking about what the activity for the group would be, not the fact that you're.
We've had a couple of thoughts here as well. Hannah.
Let me finish
go on.
So, thinking on your feet, people love to anything that's interactive. So, asking questions, chucking things in the air, or doing a scavenger hunt around the room. You can do loads of stuff like that.
Right, so I'll do Belinda's suggestion first, then we'll come back to what Hannah's put. Belinda put mix and mingle bingo.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything like that gets people thinking. You know, you could have little bits put up around your venue, because I'm not allowed to say marquee, around your venue, you know, that people go and look at and get involved.
Go and find someone who's got a red handkerchief, go and find it,
Yes.
and doing that kind of really...
That's it. Get the single people matched up early, all of that. Hannah's put, my friend is thinking of cancelling her bouncy castle because she's worried about potential injuries, etc. A lot in the media at the moment.
There are.
Oh, is there? So I didn't know.
Yeah, a little boy, it exploded in the heat.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm laughing.
Tragic.
Like,
It
well,
was tragic.
sorry, I'm not laughing at the tragedy.
What I would say to that,
the bouncy castle exploding.
It's a tricky one, but there have only been 2 reported incidents. I know 2 is too many. Don't get me wrong, 2 is too many. But there are in the law of averages of things going wrong. Freak accidents happen all the time, in any situation, anything could go wrong. I could be sitting on this decking and this might rot and I might fall back any second. It will be one of those things.
No such luck. Keep going, I'm joking.
Unfortunately, there was an accident in the media, and it has been you know, in quite highly documented, quite rightly so. It was tragic that it happened. But this heat is ridiculously hot. But you have bouncy castles in Spain. You have bouncy castles in Mexico. You have bouncy castles all around. They don't explode every day. If they exploded every day, they wouldn't be able to put them on the market.
I happen to know, this is true, that there is a bouncy castle MOT. I can't remember what it's actually called. Oh, Joseph's awake. Shotgun up. I might do it. Bouncy Castle MOT, and basically, if you're hiring a bouncy castle, check that bouncy castle has its test certificate.
Yeah.
Or whatever. We're going to find out what it's called, and we will post it in the group.
Yeah. Any reputable supplier, as well as their public liability insurance and all of that they will supply, will have that piece of paper to say it has been checked yearly, annually. A bit like when you go for a plug. If you're going, pat testing for any plugs and stuff you use, they have that for bouncy castles as well. You know that because you used to have one.
Yes, and on that, sorry, if you ever want, there's a trade body called MUTA, MUTA, for sort of outdoor temporary structures. I'm not going to say that check your company is MUTA registered, because they're not always going to be, and they can still be an amazing company, because I happen to know that it costs quite a lot to be MUTA registered. However, the point is, if you go on MUTA's website, there's lots of stuff there about outdoor venues and
what you should be
events
looking
and
for.
what you can be checking, etc. But please, don't is that right? Don't not go with someone because they're not MUTA registered.
However, what Hannah's put is that, not in this question, I was talking to her this week about the same issue, is that if you're having a bouncy castle on your day, just think about who's going to be using that. Is it going to be for children or is it going to be for adults? And if it's going to be for adults, then fair enough, let them break their own limbs and stuff. They're big enough, ugly enough to do what they want. If it's going to be children on the bouncy castle, you will need someone to man that station all day. You may not like it, and I'm sure you think your bridesmaids want to do it. They're not going to really want to spend a lovely day where they've come to be your bridesmaid sitting on the side of a bouncy castle watching 30 kids jump around and scream. So think about it carefully. If you want one, fantastic, but potentially look at hiring in someone to be
I'm sure it's an option when you
Can you get a staff member from that company coming in to man it for the day? Can you get these creche kind of people coming in to look after the kids? If that's your activity for the day, make sure that that's supervised, especially, like I said, with what's happened in the media. You don't want anything to happen. Adults, if they get drunk and they have bottles and stuff and then they're in stupid.
I am inclined to agree. Yeah, if it's for adults, I'm sort of like, do you know what? You're old enough to know what you're doing if you're going on a bouncy castle. Kids. Right. Okay.
Last
let's move
question.
on. Sarah Holloway has got Waitrose glass question. She's basically put, has anyone had any experience with Waitrose free glass hire? And we have had an answer to her question. Emily and I were talking about it. We've never done it. We haven't personally done it, but we know a lot of people who have, and no one's ever told us they've had a problem with it.
Well, we had a family party a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
And
we
they
did.
do Waitrose for that.
They'd only borrowed like a couple of crates. They hadn't borrowed enough for 150 people. But then we know people who've had weddings who've borrowed with 150 people, and we haven't heard that it went wrong, if that makes sense. You're always inclined to...
I would just check. I mean, Waitrose, I know that it's free glass hire, check what the breakages policy is on that. Check it if you need to have it clean or dirty when you return it. If it can go back dirty, then I would say go for that. For the sake of 50p a breakage, whatever that might be. How many breakages are you likely to have? Really, it will be much cheaper than going to a catering company to hire in that class.
It will. I mean, I actually absolutely agree. If you want ease, then just ask your catering. Ease comes with a price normally. Then just ask your catering company or whoever, or your bar company to do it. If you want to save that cost and do it, then Hannah's put not Waitrose, but we did Tesco's glasses. Didn't totally match, and apart from my mum's dishwasher giving up the ghost, it was super easy. So you know what, we've heard plenty.
Sainsbury's do it as well. I don't know if some of the supermarkets will request that you buy your wine through them first. Some of them say,
I never heard that.
Some of them might say absolutely it's free glass hire to whoever wants it, but just check the terms and conditions in detail, making sure what the breakages policy is. Is there a minimum you need to return? Do they come back dirty or clean? If they're dirty, I would take that option any day.
Going back to Bouncy Castles, Belinda, thank you, Belinda, has just put a link to ROSPA and their safety advice.
ROSPA is the play equipment inspection. So anyone who does playgrounds or soft plays or anything like that, Bouncy Castle providers will probably under ROSPA as well, and they are subject to annual inspections. They will have an MOT on
that's what we always called it.
But the checking of your equipment isn't done under ROSPA. It's another company.
No, I think ROSPA is the advice. I can't remember what ROSPA stands for. Long story short, by the way, we bought a Bouncy Castle second hand. One of only 2 things we ever bought second hand when we started our marquee company, and it failed its MOT, so we just sold it on because we didn't want the stress of getting it fixed or them paying for a brand new one. Interestingly, the only other thing we ever bought second hand was a trailer, and driving home two wheels fell off of the 4 wheels, which
I kid you not, that was the scariest day of my life.
Scary? What? That is the scariest day of your life.
We're driving with the van with the kids in the back, and then all of a sudden there's a car flashing us mental.
And these wheels were flying down the
A34. And basically the owner of the trailer beforehand hadn't done anything shady or anything, but as an anti-theft thing had literally loosened off all the bolts and forgot as we drove away to tighten them up again. And we were literally driving at 60 miles an hour down
60, towing a trailer on a dual carriageway,
and the wheels fell off. And there was no hard shoulder.
No, there was no.
So I'm sat there with the kids
It was very interesting, and we didn't have the tools or the. Anyway, that's a story for story for the book. How long were you driving with no wheels on the trailer? Not very long. Basically,
the first one bent off.
Right, there's 4 wheels and 2. Was it 2 on one side came off? So the
one came off first. We had 3 wheels, and we carried on, and we were getting flashed. And then as we were slowing down to realise something had happened, the second one fell off and went bouncing down the A34.
We lost one. Oh, that's right. We lost 1 wheel and we found 1 wheel. So then we had to drive home with.
Very lucky, no one was seriously hurt.
Absolutely. We've had a couple of
near misses
in our time. I had a paddleboard, 11-foot paddleboard on the roof of the van, going down the M27. It flew off the roof. 11.5-foot paddleboard.
The ratchet strap broke.
The ratchet strap broke, and everyone was safe and sound. It could have been an horrific accident, but it wasn't. So thank you everyone for that. Anyway, look, let's call it a shot. We've done quite a few personal stories tonight, including my flying ants debacle in the lounge, National Flying Ant Day. Feel free, anyone. When are you going to show everyone your pineapple? That's the other question.
I'm going to get that now.
Right, very quickly, because then we are going to wrap up, because when it hits half an hour, and I know we've waffled a lot, I'm not always happy. But hopefully you've found it interesting tonight. It was Emily's birthday last week, and this was one of her presents from her oldest, bestest male friend or whatever. They've got some cutesy little thing they like to say to each other.
Gary's in this group, and I hope you might watch
in this
it.
Group. Yeah, so
Gary. Anyone who knows us knows that we like pineapples.
I mentioned pineapples tonight.
There is a story behind it, and it's not because they've been fashionable for the last 12 months in every shop ever. We've liked them for years and years and years because there's a personal story behind it. Anyway, my mate Gary decided that nothing you can get next is good enough for me. So
short story, please.
He made me his very own pineapple, but you can't really see it.
Actually, I love it. I'm dissing it, but I love it.
It's glittery. It's a glittery.
It's a piece of chipboard with a pineapple cut out, then sprayed glittery
It's
gold.
a proper boy craft thing. But I really love it. So it's hanging in our garden. It's all varnished up and stuff, and it's hanging in my our garden.
Have you got your own garden?
I do.
Have you? Where's your
Hanging in our
garden? Because this is
and
our
I
garden.
love it. It's like one of the best handmade presents I've ever had.
Have I ever made you a handmade present? I made you a T-shirt once, didn't I?
Yeah, it was
With pictures of me on it.
2 sizes too small.
Was the T-shirt 2 sizes too small, or moving on?
Right.
Yeah.
Have a lovely evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for watching.
Look, hold on. We don't always do this. Can you see the gorgeous sunset? That might have just thrown out the camera. Anyway, we are ridiculously lucky to have some absolutely amazing. How would you do a pineapple themed outside? Well, we were talking about pineapples table centres a minute ago, Ian, but perhaps we will discuss pineapple themed wedding one day. Basically, you'd have lots of pineapples. Oh yeah, and that would be your wedding march. Right, guys, thank you ever so much. Have fun. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.